The solar eclipse has passed and the rapture did not happen. Demons did not appear, and besides a few people's retinas being burned out, nothing terrible happened. But in the weeks leading up to a predictable, scientifically explainable natural phenomenon, TikTokers embraced their inner Nostradamus, spouting nonsensical prophecies about the coming apocalypse. Though some of the BS was produced by irresponsible content creators profiting off people's fears, other videos were made by people in a genuine state of distress over the eclipse. And this has started a discussion about rampant spiritual psychosis on TikTok. Spiritual psychosis has become a TikTok buzzword of sorts. And what we're really seeing on TikTok is widespread religious delusions, which differ significantly from religious belief. If you regularly go to church or another place of worship and you believe in a higher power, you are likely not experiencing religious delusions. You are probably just religious. The article I linked below spells out the differences between these two opposing states of mind. While religious people often have a healthy relationship with what they describe as faith, people with religious delusions experience their religious beliefs in a literal and absolute way. In the context of faith, there is room for doubt and ample opportunity to mull over your perspective on the world. When you're experiencing religious delusions, no such wiggle room is afforded to you. Those experiencing such delusions feel like they possess concrete knowledge of religious concepts and events, and often express that their knowledge is unique to them and that they have elevated importance as they are the center of their religious beliefs. The DSM-5, according to the researchers who wrote the paper I cite, characterizes healthy religious beliefs as widely believed by other religious people. But there are problems with that, as the authors of the paper point out. Religious delusions can be shared by many, and that does not make the people who have them any less delusional. And shared religious delusions are remarkably common, especially on TikTok. A multitude of users on the app expressed their belief in improbable and nonsensical predictions related to the April 8th eclipse, none of which turned out to be true. Even though these false predictions were widely accepted beliefs, they were indeed religious delusions because these people were consumed by fear and unable to function in daily life, which makes these beliefs easily identifiable as delusions and not part of religious faith. Before showing you examples of this, I want you to do a Google search of your name plus the word address right now. Your personal information is probably on the front page of those results for anyone to see. As someone who makes videos for social media, that's a liability. That's why I use Aura, the sponsor of this video, to keep my personal information safe. Our data is all over the internet, and these data brokers sell that data to literally anyone, no matter their motives, to the highest bidder. Aura reveals which brokers have your data and sends opt-out requests automatically so that doesn't happen. This can reduce spam being sent to your email and makes it much harder for hackers to compromise your account. Not only does Aura help stop your data from being spread about above the table, but it also keeps track of your data being sold on the dark web. If you haven't seen the headlines, AT&T recently faced a massive breach, which resulted in 73 million customers' records being released on the dark web. The company recommended those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Aura does all of that for me and more, which is important for everyone to do and not just affected customers of AT&T. I love Aura because all the security tools I need to stay safe are bundled together at a very affordable price, so I can save money and not bounce between multiple different costly services. I value my privacy and I value yours too, so use my link in the description below, aura.com/RobertTolpe, to get a 2-week free trial of Aura and see just how much of your data is out in the open for anyone to see. Back to the video. To provide an example of someone who experienced stress over false beliefs about the solar eclipse, here's a video of a creator convinced that some kind of massacre will occur in Dallas, a city that was in the path of totality.
Yo, I never get on this app and cry. We don't have time no more. We don't have time. If you live in the city of Dallas, Texas, there is a massacre that is about to happen on the city of Dallas. Yo, we don't have time to be playing.
Though I'm not a psychiatrist, it's clear to me that this woman is experiencing a mental health crisis. She is speaking incoherently and sobbing uncontrollably despite there being no portent of a massacre or calamitous event happening in her city. Across social media, she is not alone in her experience, and there's a good reason for that. All this drama has been caused by creators spouting nonsense, garnering views and engagement by playing into people's irrational fears and spreading baseless conspiracies. All of these creators make wild assertions with no scientific evidence to support them, and it's always with the same ominous soundtrack behind them. For example, check out this video of a creator claiming you will see demons after viewing the eclipse.
So here's what's most likely to happen to some of you guys. On the left is how a normal perception of a person. During this event, the energy will change on a magnitude that you have never ever seen in your entire life. And your eyes may start to see people like what you see on the right here.
The video is complete nonsense. An eclipse is simply a reduction in sunlight caused by the shadow of the moon. The properties of the actual light hitting Earth are unchanged, so you'd expect to see demons every day by simply going outside and looking around. The reason why that doesn't happen is because the actual condition he's referring to, where someone's perception of faces is significantly altered to have what some would call a demonic appearance, is caused by damage or abnormalities in the brain. Viewing any celestial event, to my knowledge, does not literally rewire your neurons. That's a ludicrous claim. But according to this creator, this isn't an eclipse, it's an ellipse created by CERN and NASA.
We're not talking about an eclipse right now. We're talking about an ellipse. It has to do with CERN. CERN has to do with NASA. It has to do with all these people who are manipulating.
Need I remind anyone that an ellipse is a shape? A shape. That's geometry, not astronomy. After swiping through his page, I'm convinced this isn't satire. I mean, maybe it's all to drive sales of his AI course, but if that's the motive, how are these videos effective? In nearly all of them, he's unable to express himself clearly. His cadence is confusing and his speech is all right-wing conspiracy buzzwords and no substance. Despite his videos making zero sense, there are vulnerable people out there who will feel a sense of panic watching them. Indeed, that's the only thing you can take away from his videos, a sense of impending doom. It's no wonder that people whose entire For You pages are videos like that come on TikTok screaming and crying about a coming massacre in their city. Gen Z has mocked the boomer generation to the ends of the earth for believing everything they see on Facebook. But a large percentage of young people will believe any information presented to them in a TikTok if delivered in a sincere tone with dramatic music playing in the background. And this has been a problem for a while. Remember a few years ago where people believe Wayfair was shipping literal children in cabinets to people's homes? Even before TikTok, young people were among the top consumers of conspiracy theories online, with creators like Shane Dawson profiting from making fringe beliefs mainstream. While those who are in a good state of mind can filter out fact from fiction and can be entertained by stories that they don't believe in the slightest, these kinds of content can send those with a history of certain psychiatric conditions into a spiral. While those experiencing delusions are not usually a danger to others, some kinds of delusions resulting from consumption of conspiratorial content can lead to violence. Considering recent events related to dangerous misinformation being spread in private Facebook groups, it's not hard to see how things can spiral out of control. Ultimately, it's a platform's responsibility to stop dangerous movements before something bad happens. TikTok should limit the reach of potentially distressing videos featuring false claims about global events, and their guidelines indicate that such content isn't permitted in the first place. The video I showed earlier goes against TikTok's community guidelines and should have been taken down. TikTok's guidelines state that videos featuring misinformation that causes psychological harm to individuals will be removed for going against their integrity and authenticity guidelines. They clearly aren't doing a good job of enforcing those guidelines though. When a video is judged not simply on whether it is false, but also on whether it causes harm or not, that last criterion is hard to evaluate. There are a lot of shades of gray, and it can be difficult to distinguish harmless nonsense from harmful nonsense. Some things are completely outside of TikTok's control though, namely the beliefs of certain sects of evangelical Christianity. When I went to church as a kid, there were no sermons about the rapture. That's because my childhood church was a Lutheran church. Most recognized denominations of Christianity don't obsess over the rapture in the way that certain fundamentalist non-denominational Christians do. Some Christians even doubt that the rapture is even a thing according to the Bible. But it's the people who escape from non-denominational megachurches who are predominantly the ones writing all the think pieces about their rapture-related trauma. Children in these churches are told from birth that if they aren't faithful and righteous, they're going to burn in hell and be left behind when Jesus and his angels come down to earth again in the end times. Despite the book of Matthew spelling out that in regards to the end of the world, that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. Some churches create a culture where they believe they have special knowledge of the coming rapture, that they know more than the angels and even Jesus himself. If you recall, if you hold a religious belief where you have elevated importance within it, in this case, that you're among the very few that will be raptured, and that you have unique knowledge of this belief, that God has communicated just to you and your insular community through signs around you, that may very well fit the criteria of a shared religious delusion, especially if you are consumed by fear of the rapture and your ability to function in day-to-day life is limited because of that. Experiencing emotional distress at all times, especially during scientifically explainable events, should not be a feature of Christianity, and for many Christians it isn't, like this nun chillin' watching an eclipse.
God, you are wonderful.
This was stitched by a Christian TikTok creator who expressed their concern that many Christians, rather than being amazed by what they interpret as the majesty of God's creation, instead are consumed by a fear that this creator claims keeps them further from God. Well, I'm not an expert in the Christian religion and refrain from telling anyone what the right interpretation of the world is. All I can say is that some interpretations of the world can potentially lead to psychiatric emergencies, and other interpretations are significantly less likely to do so. Make of that as you will. Anyways, I'm Robert Tolpe. Once again, thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video, as sponsors keep this channel alive. Go to their link in the description below, and please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I hope you have a good week. Bye-bye.